Hello.
Hello. What?
Hey, it's about time you called.
Yeah, how's it going, man? I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, well, I noticed that you had called a few times when I wasn't here.
Oh, I just called you earlier today.
Today?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
I guess you were probably in the barn or something.
I was in snow up to my ears.
It's snowing up there already?
Yeah.
Damn, man. You
started snowing yesterday and hasn't stopped since.
Whoa.
So I've got about a foot of snow. So it's establishing pastime, you know. Because when it's snowing, the hose to the barn doesn't work.
Yeah, it's frozen. Freezes
over. So that means I have to carry water from the house to the barn. And that means I got to have a path to start off with, because I can't clean the snow away until it stops snowing. But I still have to bring water to the animals.
So it's more work.
Yeah.
Or you just replace work that you don't have to do during the winter with that work.
Hey?
I said you just replace. Because I'm thinking, because during the summer, I guess you do a lot of work, but during the winter, I thought you wouldn't have to do as much work. But
well, in the summer, you can use equipment much easier, you know, lawnmowers and tractor, that kind of stuff. In the wintertime, you're pushing a snowblower manually, or you're shoveling, or you're tramping down with your snowshoes, or you're pulling on a sled. So it's all relative.
Yeah, you're saying don't judge a book by its cover?
Yeah. Well, I had a few people who were calling who were trying to say, you know, they've been saying that for a while, but why do I spend so much time with you and don't spend any time with them? I said, hey, as far as I can tell, Jerd does his homework. He's got depth of knowledge that most people don't have, and basically wants to add to it, and he wants to share what he has. So there we go.
Yeah, lately I just been like in my own world. I'm just trying to, you know, with the details. I'm just trying to break things down in my mind. Things that I'm reading, like I was learning with this that group of people, the Basque people. Like, so America, or the USA, I say, it's controlled from the bottom is the Basque, because the Basque is Spain and they have a French division, so it's controlled by the Basque from the bottom and the top.
Yeah, well, the Basque and the Kurds and the Kashki all basically a group of people that migrated out of the Himalayas in the region of Nepal, and they are basically the media. They established the country of Mehdi in southern Iran at a time when it wasn't called Iran, but it was part of Persia.
Yeah, I was reading that they said that those people in Medes, they were actually like Aryan people.
Yeah.
So that's just Roma, right?
Well, it's...
or a mixture of something.
It's the ones that pretend they're aliens. but Aryan, not alien. That's what they really are. People called Ryan, and therefore it's linked to the Orion. And they hide behind a front of peaceful coexistence and middle ground rules. And that way they become the bureaucracy of governments. From that position, they in fact control, because they don't have to be reelected. They run the media and they run the bureaucracy. The major group is Scandinavian. The word Swede is just Medi.
Yeah.
Medis. Flip the W. All you got to do is track those Swedes, people like Hans Blix, for example, who kept the United States from going to war in Iraq for 2 to 3 months, while the French, the Germans, the Russians, and the Chinese were moving in ammunition, guns, big cannons, everything you can think of. I think they said they found something like 1 million tons of munitions in Iraq, still in boxes, that had just been delivered and had come from France and Germany. Somebody's on the phone.
This my line.
Your wire is loose or something.
Yeah, it's my wire. Whenever, I guess I'm too cheap to go buy a new phone. Yeah. It's the wire around the mouthpiece that you plug in it. Whenever it moves, it makes static. So.
Too cheap or too poor?
Too poor. I have all these bills, and I'm not making enough money.
You waste all your money on books.
Well, I'm not going to be buying books for a while now. I think I'm just going to... But I'm going to try not to buy books. But I still got, dentist appointments I got to do. That's my life right now.
Dental plans are what pays for the pension fund of the dental professions. They nip you a little bit every 6 months, build up their pension fund, and they take some from everybody and really stack up the funds. But at the same time, they can download to you recording devices, communications devices into your teeth, or some material that will destroy your health. They basically get orders from on high. That's why there are close to free dental plans in universities.
Yeah, and so they can just control those people.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
It's so covert. How do they control my cousin? I was looking at one of your older posts. This group, it's just another name, I guess, for the same group. You call them the Cult of the Turkey Vultures, and they had this ritual of picking the bones dry. Yeah. Funerals and stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was wondering why they
of turkey vultures in this area.
Really? They actually call themselves that?
Well, they're real birds. They they come out of the sky and they land in one of our back fields there for rest. Because around here nobody has guns, and a lot of places they have a hard time going because people shoot at them.
So yeah, these little groups are like I couldn't find anything in my encyclopedia about Kurdistan or.
Well, it's not something they like to discuss in detail. But you can follow them from the area around Kashmir. But they're always close to the money. Cash begins with the beginning of things, and Kaz is at the end, because Kaz, Cassiopeia, or Sac, by the way, I found out today from one of your friends that Stanford University's particle accelerator is called SLAC. Since there is no L, it's really SAC, and that's CAS backwards. SAC is basically the French word for bag. So the bag man and the bag ladies at the end of time also use the word pejoratively when they call people, you sack of shit.
I was going to ask you that. When people, like in the past, like, have you ever had people, get into an argument with somebody and they say, "Hey, Glenn, you're a piece of shit." What do you say in your mind? Like, yeah, you're right. I am.
You're right. Hey, you get two choices to be born. You either come from an egg or you come from a turd.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
But turds is the
Moses
best.
was the one who got in trouble over that, because Jesus told him to come forth, Moses, and he came in turd, and he was sent to the back of the line for cheating.
You said, yeah, because Moses was Akhenaten, right?
Akhenaten became Moses, but in real time, before he was Akhenaten, the ancestors of Akhenaten were called Tutmosis. So it was just going back to the original ancient name.
You said Akhenaten was I meant like I am, or I can, or I am, something like that.
Yeah, he was a manufactured person sent in from a place where he was socially engineered, was Mitanni. That was a Kurdish country, Medi, Kurdish, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Up in northern Syria, Iraq, that basic area where they control the Kurds. They're basically, it's a kind of cheese, if you think of Kurds, beginning of a process, and that's why the media basically controls all the cameramen, and when they want to control you, they say cheese.
Yeah, I noticed the methods that they use, you always point out, you call it antipodes.
Yeah.
Like they always have these pillars. Like one example you said Saddam Hussein and Maurice Strong, and he said it wasn't a coincidence. Saddam Hussein had he owned all the natural resources, and while Maurice Strong was sitting on top of all the water, I think it was, fresh water. Yeah. So they always set up like some anthropo, some different. That's like it's the seesaw.
Yeah.
You always have that.
I think they pronounce the word antipodes.
Antipodes. Did that come from Greek word?
It's some of the old words, and it's linked to the poles, one pole to the other. It's like if you could make a line straight through the earth to the other side from one place, that would be its antipodes.
Oh. And these guys, these priests, I know they have like so many names, and it's so easy. I guess when you look at it and look at it all the time, it's easy to see, but like, I guess you could confuse people with that. Like,
well, the common denominators are always there.
Yeah.
Common denominators are mostly phonetic. So somewhere along the line, the people trained in that, they figure it out fairly quickly.
And it's the priests that understand the phonetics, right? The missionaries.
Yeah.
I remember.
Got to remember, at the beginning, the priest and the soldier was the same person.
Yeah, they were knights.
Right? Yeah. It became too much work for one guy, and some guys were more into killing, other guys were more into stealing, so they divided the job up.
But they still have those. I guess they pretty much died out, right? But still have them. Like the assassins are the same. So the knights are the same.
Well, priests have a reputation that one would describe as self-styled. They make up their own reputation. In fact, they don't always kind of live by that reputation. Some of the nastiest people I ever met in my life were priests.
Oh yeah, I know. I could vouch for that too, because I grew up. Those guys are like teachers and stuff.
If you look at bishops in the Middle East, for example, Lebanon, and I mean these are warlords.
They're on the chessboard. It's like a real war. It's like the chessboard. Yeah. So like this stuff, but the main thing in all of this you always point out is Persia.
Yeah.
How they can basically control the whole world, and that's what's different with like the politics that you talk about for most people, is that you always seem to, nobody ever really talks about, because most people I know, like I hear talk about this stuff, they usually put the blame to like the European, Anglo-American establishment type of thing. Yeah. But you're always pointing it in like the Middle East and these guys, because nobody's talking about those guys. But
they created it all.
Yeah.
And they run it through their secret societies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people in the West have no power, no real power.
Yeah.
They're just cosmetic.
Yeah, that's what you said. They said that they passed outwardly the whole plan to the West, but the West doesn't know about the... You said something about the West doesn't know about the war on women. Yeah. They're not aware of it. Like, they're not... they don't have the real power.
Not in the detail that is known in the Middle East. I mean, the power was downloaded to the Chinese and the Far East, and then at one stage of the game, in the time around Marco Polo, they were basically told, you got to cool it now and let the power go towards the West. And on the way, of course, you run across Persia. And Persia basically took the power and ran with it. not only did they run and take over the existing areas of the Middle East, Egypt and Greece and Rome and France and Germany and all of that through either direct means or indirect means through secret societies and other religions. But they went back and basically beat up on the creators of that system, which were in India, parts of which we now call Pakistan. They established their own rule there. So power that was India alone had then to be shared with Persia. And the main vehicle for doing that is the ruse.
So what's India's role in all of this right now?
India is bringing back much of the wealth that is the end result of what they sent out, but they're not hanging on to it. They are there now to transfer it to the southern hemisphere. That means mostly to Brazil. You go to Brazil, according to the people that I speak to down there, it's all coming in their direction. They have that big statue of Christ the Redeemer who's cashing in his chips.
Yeah.
You know,
he's got his arms out.
Means. And redeem, of course, tells you it's Medi.
And then you got us over here with just a car, you know.
You're the car nation.
Yeah, it's just broken down, starting to break down.
And that's why the president is called Barack.
Yeah, exactly.
The old broken down car.
Yeah, and Barack, too, it's also like military barracks, they call them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're just getting ready to flush the toilet.
Yeah. I see that. I seen that movie 2012. I have.
Did you think I played a good role, pretending to be Harrelson?
Yeah, it was Woody Harrelson. It's a guy with long hair and a beard. I guess the guy looks a lot younger than you. I mean, if they really wanted to get somebody to really look like you, because I've seen other movies where a guy looks just like you, but it's a guy who's like a radio station host, and he's like, hey, it's gonna come down the government's line. He resembled, like, the way he acted was kind of like an Alex Jones type of thing, the things that he was saying. But I guess in a way he did look like you, like he wore something, I think it's a bandana on his head, like you do. You wear like a type of...
Sometimes.
Yeah. That's the only thing I've seen. There was, and I guess the long hair, I guess, but... And his beard
I've never seen... The only movie I saw was somebody told me go look at conspiracy theory, and he has his own newspaper.
Yeah.
that kind of hit home. But what they were trying to do was scare off my subscribers by telling them that if you subscribe to this guy's paper, you're going to end up dead.
I wonder what they were doing when with this movie 2012, because that movie really hit home, man. It really, like, I was kind of upset, man. Just how they showed it, just the ground crumbling in itself, and it's just lava.
You're talking about 2012.
Yeah, it's just everything how you describe it, like just mountains melting, tsunamis. They were showing in like Tibet, or was it China? Like those huge mountains they had.
Himalayas.
Yeah, they just had big tsunami just going over him and just flooding the whole monasteries and stuff, and it was crazy, man. I was like, wow. Because somebody like me, after hearing it and looking at it and then actually seeing it, it's like, oh my God, man. They really, because these people, they're sick, man. They're sick. They're sitting there, millions of people. Nobody's gonna survive. Maybe that's what.
Not even them.
Yeah.
They're not very smart. You know, they may be intelligent in the task they're doing, but they're not very smart.
These directors, right? They must know a lot what you know, because I see the allegories that they put in their movies. Yeah. They must know, like.
Of course they know. They are told the script, what they're going to put out. They don't basically invent it themselves.
Yeah. You think they have an overstanding?
Hey?
You think they have an overstanding?
Well, they know more than the average person, but they are more task-oriented. It's a job to be done. They're given the job, told, you do this, you make money. You don't do it, you die. You know. So they go about doing it, and some of them enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Like one guy, Stanley Kubrick, I was reading something that he said, and in watching all his movies, this guy, I can understand why he was murdered, because he knew he had a deeper understanding.
Yeah, well, if they stray from the path because they know too much, they become a danger. Yeah. So they have to be handled. And Muhammad Ali was one of the guys that had to be handled. Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And Ricky Dickey.
Yeah, you were saying things in your older post about like George Bush. Like, is he really gonna talk about the people? You were saying that the bankers they set up the whole anti-war movement.
Sure, because
the system started going against them.
Yeah, there's no such thing as them taking one side. They always have to control both sides, because that way they can make the determination on a schedule when to stop it. They pull back the money, the funding from one group and give it to another group. And right now, because we're so close to the end, the people that are the closest to them are the ones who are going to go first.
Oh.
It's always their plan to destroy their own people. They accomplish two tasks. First, they have no role for them in the future. And secondly, it gets rid of a potential problem in the long run. So if you go back to World War II and you look at the situation that existed with the Nazis setting up, well, Germany and Poland were established by Judean people who came out of the Middle East. And if anybody became Christian or Catholic, it was basically out of fear of what would be done to them if they were Jewish. So the majority of Poles are really Jews in disguise. The majority of Germans are Jews in disguise. And I don't mean Jewish, I mean Judean.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are linked to the Zoroastrian Kabbalah religion, secret society. So it's not an accident that the first camps were set up in Poland, and that the first people sent in to die were gypsies, gays, and Freemasons.
I wonder, like, because what do these guys do? Like, people who are high up in the system, when their own system is turning against them, or what do they do in that position? Those people.
Well, they usually are told that they're the exception to the rule, and they'll be saved. The word for that they use is blind. That means they'll be taken to the Moho discontinuity and they'll be safe. But they don't realize they're going there as DNA, not as human beings. There's no room down there for a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I was when you look at it, one allegory, you're talking about in the Sonic Encyclopedia, they talk about the jacket and bows, and how they describe it. They said that it was hollow pillars of information archives in there, and it had lotus plants around it, and it had at the foot of the pillars they had pomegranate, and that's so symbolic. How I guess what they meant by the pomegranate was they had all the seeds of DNA, Greenland, in the ground somewhere.
Cedars of Lebanon came from the Kurds of Kurdistan and all of the areas of the Medes. Story of Johnny Appleseed is not a story about a guy who's growing apple trees, a guy who's promoting virgin birth, is bringing the DNA for the types of people they want, handing out Bibles when he has the cash. So people believe the words without understanding the allegory behind it.
Yeah, I remember I was reading the Bible the other day, and I couldn't believe it. Like, they were talking about inside the temple, like they were only allowed priests inside the temple, and to get inside the inner part of the temple, to get in there, they had to bring in blood to clean the scenes. And all that was telling me was like, wow, they're actually saying that they need a sacrifice, they need DNA. Yeah. That's why the whole thing of washing the sins is just a bunch of BS. It's actually they're using the blood. The actual blood is actually material.
Yeah, blood's a code word. It's not a real word. It's about the cleansing. Mm-hmm. Because in the word blood, between the B and the D, you have the toilet. The English version is called a loo. Mm-hmm. And a loo is because an L and an S are interchangeable. An L graphically can look like a number 1, and an S is a number 1 in the numerical sense of Caballerian count.
Yeah.
Lu and Su are interchangeable. So the big toilet is basically Lake Superior, holds the container of water. The flushing mechanism is Sault Ste. Marie. 3 locks with the water pouring into the toilet, which is Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, Gore Bay, and it's all been orchestrated by the Rus, which is Russian, and that's why Gore Bay and Gorbachev are the same word, because he was always known as Gorby. And right at the base of the locks in Gore Bay, there is a river that comes in, and it's called the Blind River. Now, a blind thrust.
Mm-hmm.
Try to imagine the size of Lake Superior, and think of it as a big, deep bowl. And only a fraction of the water can ever get out of that deep bowl, and that's basically because it's like a bathtub. And snow melts, water runs into Lake Superior, and it overflows at its lowest point, which is going towards Sault Ste. Marie. So only the water that enters in a year can flow through to Lake Michigan in a year. 90% of the water is contained in the bowl and can't move, more than 90%. Now, try to imagine this. Under Sault Ste. Marie's 3 locks, mm-hmm. and Gore Bay, which is at the bottom, there is a structure of stone that makes it a wall that prevents the water from running out of Lake Superior. Most of the water stays contained. But if you go lower in the stone geology, you get to a place where there is a layer of stone which is softer material, and then another layer which is harder again. So think about this. Somebody digs in the soft material and pulls it out, and then installs in there jacks. A blind thrust is basically based upon what would happen if you're jacking up against that stone, which is the wall of Lake Superior. Well, a blind thrust normally makes a hill on the surface. As it jacks up, it makes a hill. That's why you have Capitol Hill, and we have Parliament Hill in Canada. And in Rome, they have the 7 hills of Rome. It's because there was activity underground that pushed and made up hills. However, if you're pushing up under Sault Ste. Marie's 3 locks, you're pushing the rocks and they're breaking until at one point the pressure of the water of Lake Superior can start to push it out of the way, because it's all loose stuff now, and the water is going to be pushing against it, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and the rocks go flying down into Michigan and beyond, and the water just flows. Now, when you flush that toilet, you're going to basically make one big lake out of Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, and Gore Bay. And the water is going to be looking for the easiest path. Well, there is a problem for that amount of water to get through Niagara Falls. So the original path it will take will be right through Ontario, down through what is called the Trent Canal system, and end up at Belleville. So you will have a part of Ontario cut off and become a big island instead of a peninsula, where Toronto is part of that island. And then I suggest that there will be a breakup of Niagara Falls because of the work done by the Corps of Engineers 20 years ago when they put up a coffer dam and stopped the water from flowing to the American side of Niagara Falls on the pretext that they were doing reinforcements. But I believe it was just the opposite. I
remember you mentioned, you said that you were flying the plane years ago. And it looked
I was coming back from a tour of the U.S. when I was promoting the MICOT project, and we flew over Niagara Falls, and I looked down, and it was empty. Not on the Canadian side. The Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side weren't touched, but the American side was empty. So that means that at one stage of the game, the pressure of the water will turn Niagara Falls into more something like rapids rather than a fall. And the water will be flowing into Lake Ontario, so Toronto will be caught kind of in the middle between these two amounts of water that are flushing towards the St. Lawrence. Now, if that's not bad enough, try to imagine that at the same time, somebody activates the detonator in the Titanic out in the Atlantic Ocean at the North Atlantic Ridge, Mid-Atlantic Ridge in the northern section, and it sends a tsunami of water from the Mid-Atlantic towards the Gulf of St. Lawrence and down the east coast of the United States. But right now, think of just the part that goes into the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So you've got three water flows coming, one going straight through Ontario in the Trent Canal, the other one going through Michigan down to the Niagara Falls region, all of it meeting at about Kingston. On the U.S. side, there's a place called Oswego, all right. Mm-hmm. And the water will flow down towards Belleville, and it will meet the water coming up the St. Lawrence from the tsunami out in the Atlantic Ocean. And the three rivers of water from this major toilet flushing will crash. You will have a flooding of New York, upper New York, and Pennsylvania has a piece in there, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and it will all flood down towards the Mississippi Valley all the way to New Orleans. And New Orleans is basically a wash tub waiting for water to fill it. It could have 40 feet of water in a day.
So how all these, because you said they basically did tunneling underground.
They've been mining in that area for copper before Christopher Columbus came. I mean, Indians were mining for copper underneath that whole area. Then you had the coming of General Motors, Ford, and all those guys, and of course they've been mining for iron and coal, salt. Everything's being basically prepared for the cleansing, they call it.
Yeah.
The Bath party is into cleansing.
That's why they call them the Bath.
Yeah, and that's why in New York you have a place called Flushing. Because it's really going to get flushed. You know, you're dealing here with a minimum when you're dealing with tsunami. You're dealing with minimum 30 feet.
Tsunamis are so massive.
30 feet is 3 stories. New York is 8 inches above sea level, Manhattan. So think of, nobody can leave a building because there is water up to the 3rd floor. How do you move millions of people who are stuck in buildings? You can't. No transportation system that will handle that kind of population. No way. And it's all induced. I mean, that's the thing most people can't put their head around. It's not nature that's making it happen.
So they basically set the environment for these things to happen in all these different.
They studied it for 16,000 years during the Ice Age when they had nothing else to do. They studied the geology, know exactly what they needed to do in one place or the other. They knew that they had to turn the Red River into the Red Sea, and they did a blind thrust that broke the land bridge there. They did the same thing between what we call Greece and Turkey today, the Sea of Marmara, and the land bridge that used to exist. They lifted it up and it fell in, and water created what we now call the Black Sea, because it was all the people living down in that valley that just got flooded all of a sudden. They did the same thing in the story of the Bible about the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is basically the Gulf. And between the Sea of Arabia and the Gulf, there was a wall. So they broke the wall and the water rushed in. That's why the story of Cain is as he goes up into Iraq, all the way up into the area of northern Iraq, where the Euphrates and the Tigris basically come together.
There's another civilization. It wasn't flooded, but it was Pompeii. Do you think that was induced?
Volcanoes, if you're living underground and you're tunneling, you can direct the energy from one place to another. So, you know, we're not able to confirm for certain that it wasn't just a part of nature. But when you can grasp the concept of what they're doing underground, building tunnels, building areas for lava to flow so that they weaken one wall one place and cause lava to flow down a tunnel that they've built and come out where they want it. They can cause tsunamis by puncturing a hole in the bottom of the sea so that the water falls in. And as soon as water falls in, it leaves the shoreline. People think they can walk out. The water hits the bottom of the hole, fills it up, and then all of a sudden bounces back. That's what's called a tsunami. So while the people are out walking on this extended beach, the story of Moses crossing the Red Sea is just about a tsunami. As soon as the king tried in that allegory, of course, he got drowned because the water was coming back.
So when they do this, when they induce these events, you think it's not going to happen? You think as it's going to be set up to be like simultaneously, like across all of America?
As far as I am aware, there are 3 separate events.
Mm-hmm. Yes, phases.
Completely split up in something like 20-year periods.
So that's going to be the whole, like, tough trials.
Now, how long one phase takes to occur from the moment people notice it's happening to having completed its task, I don't know. Can they do it in a week? Can they do it in a month?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it going to take 5 years, to run its course? Because it's got to do the entire northern hemisphere. It's not just located to take care of the U.S. There are different areas that have to be handled. Mediterranean serves the same purpose in Europe as the Great Lakes in America.
Glenn, who do I got to talk to, Glenn, to try to like affect what's going on?
Depends on who you know.
Because I'm not. I don't know. I don't think I know any powerful people.
Well, that's why here is the most likely place to arrange a meeting. Because here we're on the point of the V in the Canadian Shield, which is their roof. And on the surface, we have the control mechanism that they've laid out here. The Christians, specifically the Anglicans and the Dutch and Germans and all of that gang, plus the wee men, a gang of what people think are women who are in fact wee men running around who will go by the name of Valkyries, and their role is to genetically engineer a military out of the coprolite and mummies of the past that will fight one side of the battle. I don't know who they're going to be fighting because it seems like they control everything. Yeah. They're going to be fighting among themselves more than anybody else. But just the fact that this is Canada's central, especially Eastern Ontario, which is the spur. If you look at the boot, it's the spur, which basically means it's the driver. It's the thing that makes things take off.
Yeah.
This area is key, and that's why I've basically planned, and they're all marked out in the fields here, 2 shafts that will go down, not to the Canadian Shield because that's 1,000 feet down, but 240 feet approximately, 10 stories, is where we will provide access, leaving it up to them to come up when we can work on the people on the surface to go down part of the way and meet at the lower levels, like at about the 23rd floor of this 24-story structure. And at that point, negotiations have to take place. Negotiations have to take place between the people that can negotiate, not with the system that's in charge, because right now it's being run by computers. So what you're going to be dealing with is religious people we men, political people, and Neanderthalers all coming together to come to the only conclusion they can come to. They're no longer in charge. And they're going to die. Just like they planned for everybody else.
So it's weird because in the allegory they show that Neanderthal is running the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're running the show. I'm not sure they're running it anymore, but
yeah.
Certainly.
Not Neanderthal. They show that Hal's running the show.
Yeah.
They show that that's weird. It's saying that it's not running the show, but they don't know that.
Well, they may be listening to me. So you got to remember that when I had the site, there were at least 3 or 4 companies who are script writers who were coming in every day. I mean, Bell Canada listens in.
Yeah.
We know that TELUS listens in. We know that Shaw Communications listens in. We know the Cell listens in. We know the Essenes listen in.
Basically, you got the whole world.
The Mormons listen in. So who's not listening is the people. So the people are told the story in a manner the system wants to tell them.
So these guys are in the system. These guys start fighting each other off and infighting and stuff.
Yeah. Every division thinks it's it. That it's the top.
Oh man. So that's pretty ironic for a boss or the bosses, or if they're still alive, Neanderthals to not be running the show, to not realize they're not running the show. You think they just put so much faith in their computer that they just...
Well, they downloaded their own brain.
The consciousness.
That's the problem. They didn't download the idiot part. They downloaded the savant part. Now, when it comes to us, each one of us cannot be perfect. There's no human type that is perfect. The best we can be is 7.6239067%. In other words, just under 7.7%. In that range is the best we can be. So it takes 13 of us put together with different approaches to make a complete 100%.
Yeah.
So whether you like it or not, you're it.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that. Trying to deny it.
You got to be part of this.
Yeah, I have no choice.
Yeah,
because I got a burden on my.
There are a number of people that are coming forward, and certainly you can't depend on picking 13 people. That would mean you're a genius. So what you have to do is you look at the prospects and you invite 30 people. And out of the 30 that come, you hope you've got the 13.
So these... oh, man.
I have some chores to do. I got to go. If you want to call back, you can call back after 8 in an hour's time. But I got stuff I got to do now.
All right, Glenn. All right, Glenn.
Okay.
That's a lot of stuff to think about now. I'm thinking. All right, Glenn.
Bye.
Bye.